how to use the Divi theme. Hi, I'm Sean here with Gallagher Website Design, and in this video we're going to go over how to use the Divi theme, or at least some of the basics on how the Divi theme works so that you can have a better understanding of that theme if you're choosing it for your website or it's the one that is on your website currently. So in this video, again, we're going to go over some of the basics of this. We're not going to go too far in depth on each of these things, but just give you a good overview of each of the features or sort of sections of the Divi theme. So, and just to kind of recap that real quick before we actually go into the detail of things, let's look at an overview of what we're going to look at. So in this video, we're going to focus on these 7 areas here. So the first of which is the theme options itself, then the theme customizer, then the page builder, visual builder, Divi library, theme builder, and a role editor. Now, if you don't know what any of these are, that's totally okay. That's what this video is about. We're actually going to, just discuss each of these briefly, show you where they are in WordPress and kind of what they do so you have a greater understanding of how to use the Divi theme, at least from a basic standpoint. Okay, so first off, let's go and we're going to tackle the first thing here, which is, before we even actually talk about that, let's just talk about the Divi theme itself. What is that? So Divi theme is a theme for WordPress. So going back here, I've logged into the back end of my WordPress site here. I have an example site I put up for this video. So in this example site, what we're talking about here is this is WordPress. So Divi is a theme that's inside here that you can install that basically allows you to style the website and make edits and changes and that sort of thing. So it's something that sits inside of WordPress, and you can have one theme per website, and that theme can be, there's multiple different companies that make themes. In this case, we're describing the Divi theme, which is a very popular and a very good theme that a lot of websites use. So inside here, you're going to see in the WordPress admin area, you're going to see this section called Appearances, and then you'll see a section called Themes. If we click on that, that'll show you all the themes that are installed on your website. In this case, we're using this Divi theme here, as you see, and then we've customized another theme, which we're I'll discuss that now. So Divi allows you to make a child theme, which is basically, instead of when you make edits to the theme itself, it's going to actually make it to another theme that's sort of like a child to this parent theme. The reason that's a good thing to do is because if you started to make edits to the actual core files of this theme, then when Divi has an update, you wouldn't be able to update, or at least those updates might overwrite some of your changes there. So a lot of times you'll see someone put a child theme, as you see here, that's labeled here as this is the active theme. So that's why you're seeing these two in here. In this particular case, we've created this child theme. It's our custom theme that we put together that sits on top of this Divi here. So hopefully that gives you a little background of themes itself. Now let's actually go back here and let's dive into the theme options. So that's the first thing. So when you have Divi and it's active as your theme, or you have a child theme of Divi active, you're going to notice here on this left hand side, this column here in WordPress, a section called Divi. So if we go to that, you'll see here there's the first option called Theme Options. We're going to click on that. And once that comes up here, you're going to see there's a whole bunch of forms fields here with options and all kinds of stuff. Basically what this is this is where all the options reside for Divi itself. So this is where you would come to make a lot of the options and features, turn them on or off. And each of them is, appropriately labeled here with what they are. A lot of this, if you're just setting up the website, you'd have to kind of go in here and set all these settings up properly. If your site already has Divi and somebody built build it for you, then probably you won't need to come in here and mess around with too many of these options, but you should sort of familiarize yourself with some of these options here. There's lots and lots of them. I'm not going to go into detail of every single one of them, but I'm just going to touch on a couple of the real more important ones that you might want to be able to get in here and change. One of them specifically is the logo for the website. So that's typically here the first option, and you can reset it by actually, what that'll do is remove your logo and you won't have a logo on the site, or you can click this to upload your custom logo to there if you needed to replace whatever logo was on your website. Then there's quite a few options here. There's even the next thing kind of to look at is some options for social media icons. Depending on how you have your site set up, these may or may not control those, but you know, some options are in here to enable or disable those. And down here would be, there's the URL for the actual social media site, so your Facebook fan page, Twitter page, stuff like that. And then after that, there's a lot of other settings that you probably, we won't going to kind of go into here because it gets a little technical, but you know, there's quite a few things. So going back up here, you're going to notice this navigation bar here, and this actually has some more options and more settings. A lot of these again get pretty technical, so we're not going to go into a lot of depth there, and most of these you probably won't need to actually go into and change or edit here. Most of it is going to be fine. Now, one that I shouldn't mention though is just this updates here section. In here, if you have paid for Divi, this is where your key would be, and all that sort of information would all be right in here. It should be in there. So that if you did, you know, purchase Divi, you want to make sure that you've put in your information there and your username, password, etc. So okay, so that's sort of a basic, very basic understanding of this theme options. The other thing to just mention on it is if you do make any changes to any of these tabs or anything here, you do want to click on this Save Changes so that those changes actually are saved and take effect. Okay, so moving on to the next section is the Theme Customizer. Now, in WordPress, there's always a theme customizer. That's something that's built into WordPress. But every theme can actually change the way that customizer kind of looks or functions. So to get to that, there's two different ways you can get there. One is if you go up here to Appearances and then you click on Customize, that will bring you there. And then Divi also adds another way to get there. If you go to Divi and then click on Theme Customizer, you can get there. So we're going to do that right now. And that's going to load up. Again, this is a functionality that's already built into WordPress, but themes can basically dictate what sort of options show up here on the left to be able to be customized. Now this is very similar to, some of the options are very similar to what you'll see in the theme options that we were just checking out. In fact, if you make a change there, it would be the same. It would make that change in here. Some of those options are exactly the same. So either place you can make the change. You don't have to do it in both places. So kind of just to give you a brief overview of this, you're going to find these options here on the left, and then this here in the center is just to kind of give you a visual of when you make changes here, what it'll look like on the website. When you make changes here and you're finished with actually making them, you'll want to end up clicking this publish button. It'll be blue when there's a change so that you can actually click on it and save it. So the options in here that you'll see are some general settings, and I'm not going to go into all of these options here because there's quite a bit and quite a few things to go through, but the general tab here mostly has you know, what sort of fonts are going to be used in this typography section, the sizes of the fonts, and kind of this will basically change the general stuff on the site. Each page could have on its own, could have some special set fonts and sizes and things like that, but if it doesn't and it's just using the general ones, this is where that would be edited. The colors for the site, all that kind of stuff is all here for in this typography for fonts. And then there's a little bit of information on layout settings, how wide the screen is here for your website, etc. Some accent color information. And that's pretty much generally in here what you need to worry about. Then after that, there's a heading and navigation section. This section probably for the most part is going to be set up just fine, but basically you can come in here and change the font sizes of the navigational bar. You'll see here that I'm kind of putting my mouse over. And in Divi, there's actually two different navigational bars. They kind of split it up into two sort of things. There's this thing what they call primary menu bar, which is what you're seeing right here at the top. But then when you scroll, you'll notice that the bar gets a little smaller. They call that the fixed navigation bar. So that's what these two options are here. This second menu bar, that would be if there was another menu bar underneath this that was stacked underneath. In most cases, at least the sites that we develop here, we usually don't add that in there because it kind of takes up a lot of space there on the site. So in each of these, you can actually click them and there'll be settings here, again, similar to kind of what we were seeing before, where you can change the colors of these links here. Some of the other font and text details can all be changed in here. And if I go back, same thing on the fixed navigation one. Again, that's this bar. You're editing it when it actually shrinks down to that smaller size when you're scrolling down the page. So there you go. Those are those options. The only other thing here to kind of highlight was that the header elements, if I click on that, in here you can select to turn on or off the social media icons that might be showing in your navigation bar, as well as a search icon, which you'll see I'm kind of putting a mouse over here. So that's the search icon. And that should be most of it for the header navigation section. Next, the footer section, which if I scroll down in this view menu here and I go all the way to the bottom, we're talking about what's down here at the very bottom here. Now again, Divi kind of splits this up into two sections here in the footer. One, this is sort of the footer section, this sort of lighter gray section, and then this really darker gray or darker black section here they call the bottom bar. So in here, you're going to see quite a few options, just like before. You can click on some of these and actually change the colors of the fonts and everything like that. And then specifically this bottom bar section, if you click on this, it actually has the content in here that actually shows up. So that's how you'd come in here if you ever wanted to change some of these links or whatever details you might have here, the copyright date, etc. in the bottom of your website. You know, depending on, again, to how you've set up your website. Then if I go back, there's a lot of other options here. Again, they're pretty similar to these things that we just went through. There's buttons, and this is sort of like the general styles you can edit for the buttons. And blog, same thing, kind of styles for that. Mobile styles, same sort of thing. And then color schemes, same sort of thing. Each of these allow you to go through and edit those sort of sections. I'm not going to go into detail on each of these because there's quite a few options, as I've mentioned. And then after you've completed whatever changes you might want to make here, again, you would click on this publish button. It will be blue. Right now it's grayed out because I didn't actually make any changes, but it'll show blue when you click on that, and then all those changes will be published to your site. So once you're done and you want to exit out of this, you want to click on this X up here, and this will bring you back to the WordPress admin area that we're at before. So there we go, we're back. So that is the theme customizer and some of the info about that. Next, let's talk about the page builder. Now, Divi has a special page builder that's built into the theme, and there's actually two different types of page builders it has. One is sort of in the back end in this area that you can see and edit each of the pages, and the other is a visual builder. And by visual builder, I mean if we go to our demonstration website here, you're actually able to visually edit these items on the page while you're viewing it. So that's sort of unique to this theme and why it's a popular and a good recommended theme that we recommend, because you're able to actually make those changes as you visually see them, which really makes it easy to understand what's happening when you're making changes. Now, let's just go over that page builder. So how you get to that is you would come up here to your pages or posts, depending on what you want to edit. If you want to edit a blog post, you'd click there. If you want to edit a page, you'd click here for pages. And let's just go to pages in this site here. And then you're going to see whatever pages you have listed. In this case, we're going to click on the home page and we're going to edit that page. So I'm going to open that up here. And as you see, it's opening up. You're going to see this sort of spinning here until it's completely loaded. And what it's doing is it's loading this Divi builder. So now you see basically what this is it's listing out each of the sections sort of with different colors here depending on what type of section. I'm going to explain what that means here in a second. But the whole page is basically laid out and you can kind of see how an outline of how it flows. So in Divi, you have three things. You have what's called a section, and that's what's in blue here. So that would be this entire area here is actually called a section. And then you have some things inside of that section. So you'll notice it's kind of over top of everything here, and that signifies, and the fact that it's blue signifies that's the section. Then inside of that, you can have a row, which you'll see here it says row. And those are signified by green, and then inside of each row you can have modules, which are these black sections here. Each module, you can have multiple kinds of modules. Divi has all sorts of different modules, from text modules to a button module to images, etc. I'm not going to go into all the detail of that because I have another video that kind of goes into a lot more on that, but that's kind of an overview. So you can see here, as you look here, you'll see there's, again here, this blue, this is a new section, and then you'll see green, it's a new row. And then inside that row, we actually have two columns here. You'll see it split up, and then you'll see these modules for each of the columns. So in Divi, for the rows, you can actually have a different type of column structure for each row. And in Divi, if you click on, you'll see this sort of column icon here. If I click on that, it's going to pop up and allow me to choose what type of column that I want for that row. So you'll see here, this is just a one column, this is two column, etc. If we come down here where we see there's two columns here, you'll notice that it's using this sort of two column where I have a little bit smaller of a column on this side than the other side. And Divi has a lot of different options for that. So, you know, there's a lot of functionality and a lot of different customization that you can do with that. So when you're on this page and you want to edit sections here, you want to click on this cog icon. You'll notice here this icon will open up, for example, let's open up this text module, and it'll pop up with this pop-up and then allow you to edit whatever text is in there. Now when you're editing, one thing you should know about text modules, which is different with a lot of the other modules, is you have these two options here. If you click text, this is actually the HTML code, which you may or may not know how to edit that, but Divi makes it easy. You can just click on this visual and you're editing it like you'd edit something in a Microsoft Word document or Google Doc or something like that. So that makes it a lot easier. You got this toolbar to change font sizes, etc. So all right, once you've made any changes there, any of these sections or rows or modules that you click on, you're going to want to click this green icon here to actually save the changes that you made. I'm going to click this X, or you click that if you want to discard any of the changes you made. And then once you've made changes to whatever sections, modules, or anything like that, you would want to click this blue update button right there. So that's how you make changes here specifically inside of the back end of the WordPress admin. Now, as I mentioned, Divi has another type of builder, which is the visual builder. So for that, we'd actually go to the web page itself that you want to edit. In this case, you know, we're on the home page of the website. Let's say I wanted to edit this site. You would actually come up here to this Enable Visual Builder, click on that, and you'll see it'll take a couple seconds for it to load, and then you'll see this loading graphic as it's loading through. And again, it's going to actually load the entire site in a builder here where you can visually make changes while you visually see what's actually happening on the site for these changes. And just like we were looking at before, you're gonna have sections and rows and modules, and you'll see that signified here by this toolbar, blue meaning sections again, rows meaning green, and then this black meaning modules that are in here. And again, the icons are the same as what we kind of just went over before. You'd click on this cog icon if you want to edit this. It'll end up showing you a pop-up here. You can edit it right in that pop-up, or you can actually, for a lot of text modules, actually even type right in here. Either way, you want to click this icon when you're done. I'm just going to discard those changes. And then when you're editing this on the Visual Builder, you want to make sure there's one other step you have to do to save any changes that you made, and that is down here you'll see this 3 dotted icon circle here. You want to click on that, and that opens up this little toolbar down here at the bottom with a lot of different options. You want to click on this save button right there. Once you click that, you'll see it'll spin like that, and then that means it's saving, and then when it's done you'll see a check mark there that it's saved. So that's pretty much everything, a basic overview here of Visual Builder. I go into a lot more detail about the builders in some other videos that you might want to check out. Next thing we want to go over is the Divi Library. So the Divi Library, if we go back to the WordPress admin area and you go to Divi, Divi has this option called the Divi Library. If I click on that, I'm going to discard and exit those changes. If I click on that, you're going to see here, it's actually, what this is it's layouts that you've saved into Divi so that you don't have to keep recreating them on all of your pages, which is great because that saves you time and building things on your site. And then Divi also has an option called a global library option, where that option, if you were to make something as a global thing, anywhere you add it on the site, anywhere you edit that on the site, it edits it, that global section or module everywhere. So you only have to edit it in one place, and it changes it everywhere in your site. That's great for updating your site, makes it a lot easier. Now in Divi, you'll find those if you click on this plus icon on any of these areas. This will allow you to add in a new section or module. So in this case, let's click this add new module, and you'll see add from library. So that would be, if you clicked on that, it would list any of the library, anything that we've saved into our library. Right now I haven't saved anything in there, but if you wanted to save something, you could click on these 3 bar icons and then click save to library, and then that would allow you to save it to library and give you the option if you want to make it global or not. So there you go, that's sort of what the Divi library is. Next thing we want to kind of briefly go over is the theme builder. So Divi also offers a really cool feature called the theme builder. If we come over here to Divi and click on theme builder, that's going to open up this section here. And what this is it allows you to make custom sort of templates for your site and assign pages or types of pages to that sort of template. That's really cool and really makes it easy to quickly create sort of a theme that you might want to have for a specific type of page or pages. And then here you would just come in and you would click on the global, either adding a global header or body or footer section to that, and you can actually edit what those sections would look like. So it's really useful for, say, if you needed to make a page where you didn't want to have a certain type of header on it, but all the other pages you did, you can come in here and kind of signify that and then actually assign what pages will have that sort of theme on them. And then in here again, of course, you always want to click on these save changes when you're done with that. Lastly, we want to talk about here is a thing called the role editor. So this is another unique feature to Divi itself. If I come over here, you'll see in here there's a section called role editor. If I click on that, it's going to pull up what it kind of sounds like. It's a section that allows you to change the role or that different types of users can have access to. So right now I'm an administrator. I'm logged in as the administrator of the website. So in here you can actually change what an administrator could have access to do, or what an editor could, or an author, etc. And those are all different types of users that you can save in WordPress. And then in here you can change what they could actually do on your website. For example, say you wanted to give access to an author, but you didn't want them to be able to, make changes to the actual theme options, etc. You could disable that for them so they couldn't do that. So there you go. I know that was a little bit long-winded, but that covers all these areas, at least in a little bit of detail, to go over what they are, what sort of sections and features and things that Divi has. And as I said, some other videos I have that go into a lot more details of this. If you haven't signed up yet for my course, there's a link in the description for that, and that should help you with any of your future edits and things like that you meet on your site.